Two of the most famous names in superhero comics grew up in the exact same city, wearing a mask for almost the exact same reason. Spider-Man refuses to kill. Ever. No matter what. The Punisher does almost nothing but kill. So today, we're going deep into the real comic book history of Spider-Man and the Punisher, because these aren't just two heroes. They're two completely opposite answers to the exact same question. And the 12 years between them explain almost everything. Let's start in 1962. America is optimistic, confident. The country believes, more or less, that its institutions work, and comic newsstands are full of colorful, hopeful stories. This is the world Spider-Man is born into. 12 years later, that confidence is gone completely. Families are watching grainy news footage, uneasy about a country that suddenly feels less safe than it used to. But first, back to 1962, and an ordinary, awkward teenage boy nobody notices. At a science exhibition, a small spider, irradiated, forgotten by everyone in the room, bites him. Almost as an afterthought. And here's the part people forget. His first move isn't heroic at all. He uses his incredible new powers to make money. Wrestling, showing off, cashing in. A promoter shortchanges him. And in a small, petty act of spite, he lets a fleeing thief run right past him. He could have stopped him easily. He just doesn't bother. That decision comes back around days later, in his own home, a kind old man who raised him, about to have his ordinary evening shattered. A break-in, at night. And the man who taught him right from wrong is gone. He finds him too late, and in the same frame, unmistakably, the exact thief he let go. Rewind for a second, because the bite itself is worth sitting with. One small, accidental moment. That's all it takes to change absolutely everything that follows. He doesn't get advice. He doesn't get a lesson handed to him. He gets a caption. A narrator's line printed at the very end of the original 1962 story. With great power there must also come great responsibility, words nobody actually says to him out loud. He has to work it out entirely alone. So, alone in his room at night, he builds himself something new. A costume, a purpose. And he takes his first swing out over the city, no longer selfish, carrying something heavier than before. Out of that guilt, he carves one rule in stone. A line he will never cross, no matter how bad things get. You can see it in how he fights, pulling a devastating punch inches from a criminal's face, power visibly held back. Guilt, weighed against restraint, and restraint always wins. Now, a different war, a different silhouette. A soldier, moving through smoke. He comes home from Vietnam already changed by what he'd seen and done overseas. He takes his wife and 2 children to an ordinary, sunny picnic in Central Park. And in the background, unnoticed at first, a mob carrying out an execution. His family realizes, in an instant, that they've seen something they were never supposed to see. The mob doesn't leave loose ends. What's left afterward is just an empty picnic blanket in an empty park. And a man kneeling alone at 3 small gravestones. And a man kneeling alone at 3 small gravestones. Alone in a dark room, surrounded by the only tools he still trusts, he decides something irreversible. He paints a stark white skull across his chest, by hand, a methodical, cold transformation into something else entirely. He's lost all faith that any courtroom, any gavel, will ever deliver what he needs. And here's the detail most retellings skip. When he first appears in the comics, in 1974, he isn't a hero at all. He's a hired gun, paid to hunt down and kill Spider-Man under false accusation. His worldview, from that point on, is a crosshair. Cold, mechanical, fixed on a target. No restraint left on his side of the scale at all, just a weapon, and the will to use it. Same basic shape, both of them. A normal life. A sudden, violent loss. A mask. But look at where the two paths split. One man's guilt built a chain, holding himself back. The other man's grief became a weight, pushing him forward with nothing left to lose. Two very different trails, cut through the exact same city streets. One believes in a rule book. The other believes only in the bullet. And that split maps almost perfectly onto two entire schools of moral philosophy. A shattered family, frozen in that single moment, the origin of everything the Punisher becomes. Spider-Man runs on what philosophers call a deontological code. Certain actions are simply wrong, always, no matter the outcome. He won't kill, even when killing the villain in front of him would arguably save more lives down the road. The rule matters more than the result. The Punisher runs on the opposite logic entirely. Consequences are all that matter. If killing this criminal prevents his next 12 victims, then the killing is justified. The result is the only rule that counts. Neither one is playing by the same rulebook, which is exactly why, whenever they cross paths, it isn't really a fight about crime at all. It's a fight about which kind of universe is more honest. And here's the uncomfortable part. Both of them have a point. Spider-Man's rule keeps him human. It keeps him from becoming the exact thing he fights. But it also means the same villains keep coming back, issue after issue, because he refuses to end them permanently. The Punisher's approach ends threats immediately. Completely. No sequels. But it also means he's become something close to the very violence he set out to punish. So when the two of them actually meet, tension crackling between them, it was never really going to be simple. Spider-Man calculates whether to fight his fellow costumed figure at all. The Punisher, cold and unmoved, is already calculating the odds. Psychologically, they aren't reacting to loss the same way. Peter Parker's core wound is guilt, over something he could have prevented and didn't. Frank Castle's core wound is grief, over something he had absolutely no power to prevent at all. Frank Castle's core wound is grief, over something he had absolutely no power to prevent at all. Grief, especially unprocessed trauma, tends to build escalation instead. There's no failure to correct, just an unbearable loss with nowhere to go. One man built a cage around his own power. The other became a weapon with no safety on it at all. So when they finally clash, restrained and stylized, not simply violent, it's really their two philosophies colliding physically. And readers, for 50 years now, have genuinely loved both of them. Not ironically. But here's a controversy the comics never saw coming. Off the page, in the real world. The Punisher's stark white skull symbol has been adopted by actual police departments and military units, painted on vehicles, worn on patches. And the man who created the character has publicly, repeatedly objected to this. He said, directly, that the Punisher was never meant to be admired, that the character only exists because the system already failed Frank Castle completely. He's compared law enforcement wearing that skull to flying a flag associated with oppression on a government building. A warning, mistaken by real institutions for a badge of honor. A fictional man invented to show what happens when justice completely breaks down, turned into a mascot for the very institutions he was created to indict. Spider-Man's rule never got twisted that way. Nobody paints his mask on a badge as a threat. Which might be the real, final difference. One symbol can be misread as strength. The other only ever reads as restraint. New readers, today, hold both comics side by side, trying to decide which one to actually admire. And maybe that decision was never really about which superhero is better at all. The question this leaves you with is being handed straight to you now. A shattered family portrait, the moment everything for Frank Castle broke permanently, and never got fixed. A city, split cleanly in two, each half thriving, or surviving, under a completely different philosophy of justice. Meanwhile, in his half of that same city, the disciplined one is still doing something small. quiet heroism nobody applauds. And in his half, the other one stands guard alone at night, grim, effective, feared. Two very different kinds of safety. Both of them, in their own way, actually working. A reader closes both comics at once, thoughtful, and genuinely unresolved. 12 years, that's the entire gap that produced two opposite answers to the exact same wound. One shape, loss, guilt, a mask, branching into two completely different men. So here's the actual question this leaves you with. Not which one is the better superhero. Which one is the more honest description of what a person becomes after the exact same kind of loss? The rule Spider-Man built out of guilt has held for over 60 years of stories now, largely unbroken. The war the Punisher built out of grief has never once actually ended, in 50 years of trying. Restraint is boring, and it doesn't end the story. But it's the only one of the two that actually works. Vengeance feels like an ending. It never actually is one. Both of them grew out of the exact same wound. Both of them still get called heroes. And maybe the most honest thing either one ever taught us is this: the mask was never the point. The choice underneath it always was. So, guilt or grief? A rule or a war? Which one is actually you? If this got you thinking, that's the whole point of this channel, one uncomfortable idea, every week. Tell me in the comments, Spider-Man or the Punisher? Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.